I was filming some cormorants down on the back pond, close to the pipe. That's when I first saw the mink. My attention was on the cormorants and what they were doing, so I didn't see the mink at first. The cormorants were doing okay and catching lots of fish. When this one had had enough, his mate came along to have a go. "I'll see you later, pal. Good luck." And off he goes. Just as his mate starts fishing, the mink swims out of the pipe with a fish in his mouth. That was the first time I saw him. The cormorant takes no notice of the mink. He just carries on fishing. He's doing well. 2 dives and 2 fish caught. Down he goes, looking for number 3. And he's got it. I reckon he's had enough now. Got a belly full of fish. Too full to fly, by the looks of him. Anyway, this film's supposed to be about the mink. So let's get back to the pipe, see if we can see him again. There he is, just coming down the bank. He's just swum into the pipe. He's out again, and he's got a fish. While I was looking out for the mink, I noticed the kingfisher. Down she goes, and she's caught a fish. What a lovely surprise. Here comes the mink again. Climbing up on the wire mesh. Going over to that rubbish. He's a cute little fella. I wonder if he's on his own, or if he's got a mate. Once I knew for certain there was a mink there, I started filming a lot more in that area around the pipe. On most days, I would see him. He'd come down the bank and swim over to the pipe, then dive under. Not long after, he would surface with a fish in his mouth. Then he heads back up the bank to where he's got a den. Sooner or later, he'd come out again and go back into the pipe. There's a lot of rubbish gets trapped around the pipe, and he climbs up on it and splashes around. It's hard to tell whether there's one of them or 2 of them. The further you look down the pipe, the dimmer it gets, and you can never be sure of what you're seeing. The question is he on his own, or has he got a mate? A few days later, I watched him go down the pipe as usual, and when he came back out, this is what I saw. I'll slow it down and freeze the frame so you can see it. One coming out the pipe and one coming down the bank. Let's have another look, just to make sure. Definitely 2 of them there. These next scenes prove beyond any doubt that there's 2 mink living over there. Blink and you've missed it, so I'll slow this one down as well. One comes down to the water, his mate dashes across to him, and they both go up the bank. Here he is again, straight down the pipe, and another one comes across from the other side, look. Now see what happens when his mate comes out of the pipe. They bump into each other, then go off in different directions. Here they are, doing it again, crashing into each other as they go in and out of the pipe. A lovely sunny winter's afternoon. One mink comes down the bank and another swims across the mouth of the pipe. Splash, crash. It's obvious that there's at least two of them. Could be two males, could be two females, could be a male and a female. But we don't really see them much together, and it's really difficult to tell one from the other. Mink are solitary, territorial animals, and they don't usually mix with other mink, except when they're mating. This might explain why the two mink around here keep away from each other most of the time. If they can't even get on with each other, how do they get on with the rest of the pond life? You'll just have to keep watching them and find out. The mink seem to have a free run around that corner of the back pond. Not only around the pipe, but for a fair distance on the banks either side of it. I worked out that they've got a den at each side of the pipe, and there's various ways they can get into it, some above the water and some below the waterline. During the day they go about their business, which is mainly catching fish. They don't seem to bother anybody, and nobody bothers them. Here he is, coming out of one of the underwater entrances to his den. And now he's swimming over to the other den. I think the entrance is behind that tree, or somewhere up on that bank. He's on top of the pipe now, just below the kingfisher. And he's back again, having a good look round, checking out his territory, seeing what the competition is. He's up on that tree now. It looks like he's cleaning his fur by rubbing it on the bark. The cormorant and the ducks just minding their own business as usual. They're really cute, these little guys, but I've heard some real horror stories about them. These American mink have got a reputation of being proper vicious little buggers, and they've been known to attack and kill birds. But to be fair to the mink, I've never seen them do it on this pond. They use mink for killing rats over in America, just like we use ferrets in this country for ratting. And they're experts at it. Just watch some of the videos on YouTube, mink versus rat, and you'll see for yourself just how vicious these cute looking creatures can be. Having said that, I've never seen these mink go for a bird, let alone attack and kill one. All I've ever seen them do is hunt for fish. They're American mink who behave like British otters. I've heard that they can kill birds as big as seagulls and cormorants. They swim under them, grab them by the legs, pull them under and drown them. But all I've ever seen them do is catch fish. The ducks and all the other birds don't seem to be frightened by the mink. Loads of times they get really close to each other and they have a bit of a face-off. He looks at them and they look at him and they just get on with their own business. A cold and sunny day down on the pond. Let's see what the mink are doing. He's in and out the pipe, but he doesn't always catch a fish. And he's got some competition today from that cormorant over there on the telegraph pole. That don't bother him. There's plenty of fish for everybody. And look who's turned up to get her share. Straight down and back up again with a fish in her beak. She knows what she's doing. The mink's back. Now let's see who catches the most fish. She's watching and waiting, and he's took a dive down into the pipe. Out he comes with a fish. Looks like game on to me. Down she goes. And again. Third time lucky. I can see a fish there in her beak. Watch this. She dive bombs the top of the mink. Look. I think he's got a fish and all. That's 2 apiece. He's off looking for number 3. It's starting to rain and another contender's turned up. Them poor fish have got no chance. She's just caught another. That's 3-2 to the kingfisher. And she's gone and got one on her first dive. Looks like she's off. Can't be very hungry. I'm not sure if she caught another one there. Anyway, I've stopped counting. They're both brilliant at catching fish. We'll call it a draw. 3 apiece. Here she is, on one of those golden, gorgeous winter afternoons, with the sun shining brightly on her. Look at those dazzling colours. Beautiful sight. Everybody knows that these guys are top of the pecking order. Nobody bothers the swans. They just go where they want and do what they like. They often come down on the back pond to feed. Swans are mainly vegetarian, Most of their food source comes out of the mud on the bottom of the pond. So there's no competition really between them and the mink for the fish. When they do happen to come across each other, they take no notice and just get on with what they're doing. We saw the cormorants earlier, and it was because of them that we discovered the mink. And we've seen how good they are at catching fish. Now it's the turn of the goosehanders. Let's see how good they are at catching fish. I must admit, before I started filming down here, I'd never even heard of a goosehander, let alone seen one. Just lately, we're seeing quite a lot of them. They're a similar shape to cormorants, and they've got that long beak with the hook on the end. Ideal for catching fish. They're in competition for the fish with the mink, the cormorants, kingfisher, herons. It's just as well that there's enough fish to go around, otherwise they might be fighting each other for it. You've got to feel sorry for the fish with all these ace predators about, and the fish being at the bottom of the food chain, and they all want a piece of you. Just now, none of them seem to be catching very much. But that's just how it goes sometimes. You just have to keep on trying. Another day down by the pipe, and they're all getting on with their own thing. She's doing better at catching fish than they were the other day. He's not doing too bad either. That's got to be the biggest fish I've ever seen a mink catch. Size of that. He's gone behind the tree and taken it further along the bank. He might be going to share it with his mate. But given their reputation as loners, he's more likely going to stash it in his den, saving it for a rainy day sort of thing. She's off. Had enough for one day. The herons have a different style of fishing from the cormorants and the gooseanders. They stand in the water as still as a statue. They watch and wait and strike. Looks like that one got away. Never mind. Try again, lad. He knows the mink's around. He also knows they're both looking for fish. Their attitude seems to be, you do it your way, I'll do it mine, and may the best one win. Some things frighten those mallards. It could have been the mink swimming underneath them. Heron's not catching note here. He's going to try somewhere else, somewhere a bit quieter. When the pond freezes over, it makes life much more difficult for the birds who live down there. It's a lot harder for them to find food, water and shelter. The Canada geese don't come down to the pipe that often, but today they've no choice because most of the pond is iced up. They're not fish eaters, so they're not in competition with the mink. They just mooch around in the mud looking for their food. I don't think the mink would attack something as big as a goose. But just 'cause I've not seen it, don't mean to say it don't happen. I've seen a dead goose now and again around the pond. It could have died of old age, or disease, or a predator, such as a fox, or a rat, or even our little friend, the mink. Wildlife and nature are fascinating, and can be cruel at times. We see it all down here on the pond. I've not seen the mink today. He must be staying in his den, keeping warm. No sign of him anyway, around the pipe or up on the banks. Maybe he'll come out now that the geese are going. Most of the ducks who live down on the Flash are mallards. But we do get other ducks dropping in now and again. Like these teal. They're smaller than mallards and they're also quite shy. When people come down to feed the birds, you never see teal coming up for any food. They keep away from people and take care of their own business with their own kind. Like all the other pond life, the ducks know all about the mink and they're all aware of its fearsome reputation. Yet they still come down here and hang around the pipe and his dens. It's as if they're here to torment him and wind him up. That don't scare us, silly. come and get us if you think you're hard enough. And maybe sometimes he does go for them, but I've never seen it happen. There he goes, taking no notice of the ducks whatsoever. They hang around the pipe and the entrance to his den, just like ready meals, waiting to be picked up. Why do the mink just catch and eat fish when there's all that lovely duck meat about? If he were killing and eating ducks, they won't come nowhere near him. As it is, they all seem to get on with their own thing. A bit of a splash and crash there from the mink. I think they just bumped into each other going up to that den. Some days the mink are very active either side of the pipe. On other days you'll be lucky to see them at all. Here he is, coming down from his den with a fish in his mouth, which he must have caught earlier, and now he's taking it over to the other den. I reckon they must store fish in the dens, a bit like squirrels storing nuts for when there's not much food about. It looks to me like the mink just swam under that duck and startled her. Now she's telling her mates, watch out, the mink's about. He could easily grab them by the leg, drag them underwater and drown them. He's not bothered about ducks. All he cares about is fish. The ducks are having a bit of a flap again. I wonder if he's playing games with them and just winding them up, like they do with him sometimes. I reckon he must be, because he's not attacking them or killing them. He might spook them now and again, but I don't think they're the least bit frightened of him. I really do think they're playing games with each other. Seagulls sometimes come over by the pipe looking for food, and the mink's looking at them from the bank, but I don't think he sees them as food, and I don't think they see him as a threat. Seagulls are not on his menu. He prefers fish. I think I've said enough now. It's time to sit back and enjoy watching 10 minutes of the Mink of Ferrymoor Flash.